myself as a quiet, behind-the-scenes person, but I deeply wanted God to use my life for His purposes. I was musical, and so I began to play the piano in church, as I saw women doing in my environment. My ideas about who I could become were influenced by what I saw women doing in my church. When I was a teenager, I met Richard Burke. He was charismatic, handsome, funny, and gifted, the center of every room he walked into. He shared my passion for Jesus and for local church ministry. Rich drew me out of my natural reserve, so we fit well together. We quickly fell in love and dreamed about what God would do in our future. At 21, I married Rich, and a month later, we moved to Chicago to be youth pastors at a non-denominational megachurch. Things could not have gone better. Teenagers were coming in droves, encountering Jesus. Rich was preaching, and I was running the ministry from behind the scenes, supporting him. I believed this was how I would fulfill God's call on my life, by making Rich as fruitful as possible in ministry, and it was working. It wasn't long until the senior pastors of our church recognized my administrative and musical gifts. 18 months after we arrived, they invited me to lead the worship ministry for our church. This was not a small task, since it involved leading multiple music teams and choirs, hundreds of volunteers. I was concerned that taking on this role would hamper my ability to support my husband's call. I told them I would do it for 6 months until they could find someone else. 12 years later, I was still a worship pastor. Our lives were going well, but it didn't last. In 2001, we took a road trip east to celebrate 2 years of marriage. Returning home, we decided to drive through the night to make it to the youth meeting. Early in the morning, I awoke to our car rolling over. When the car came to a stop and I opened my eyes, Rich was gone. He had been thrown from the car and had died instantly. In that moment, every plan and dream I had for my family, career, and ministry future also died. I was whisked off to the hospital, where they checked me over and found no serious injuries. My body healed in a few weeks, but my grief lasted much longer. In the months that followed, I took stock of my circumstances. What next? I chose to keep going in ministry as a single 23-year-old woman, a worship pastor leading in a megachurch. Everything was different. I had to set direction for the ministry and make hard decisions without Rich's leadership. I had to have challenging conversations to convince people about the right way forward that I had previously deferred to my husband. Earning the respect of men twice my age and women with twice my ability wasn't easy. I felt like I was in a fishbowl with everyone's eyes on me, and I had very little idea what I was doing. I was alone, and I didn't know any women, much less women my age, who were leading something on the scale that I was. The male pastors I met seemed very cautious to engage me. The ministry networks where I could find answers to my questions were essentially closed to me, and so I had to figure out most things by trial and error. I had women who were spiritual mentors to me, but no woman who was a leadership coach to help me grow. I thank God for the handful of male pastors in my life, youth pastor, worship pastor, and senior pastor, who recognized potential in me and trained me in ministry leadership. But outside my local church, collegial relationships with male pastors seemed to be impossible. Despite the difficulties I faced, my leadership skills grew, and as they did, I encountered leadership opportunities. A few years later, I was promoted to the executive leadership team of our church. It wasn't until a decade later that I recognized how God had used that.